Welcome back to the 13th Annual Dallas International Film Festival. We're here with the filmmakers and cast from Company.
Hey, thanks for having us. I'm Doron, and the director and co-writer of Company.
Hi, I'm Blair Beeken, and I'm one of the stars in it, along with Katie Folan and another co-writer.
So let's start with where did this... I hope this story, if it did come from a real place, I'm curious, or if it was just something y'all kind of made up, I'm curious.
So this particular idea, I think we developed it over two films that Blair and Katie, who's not here, and I worked on. And this sort of came out of that relationship, and initially the idea stemmed from Vape, where there's this supporting character in a film that I directed who briefly mentions that her husband is on this river rafting trip. And I thought it would be funny to maybe revisit this character later on and see her finding out that her husband is missing. And this particular character's whole life kind of revolves around this man. And so when she loses this anchor in her life, what she does and how it affects her. And I typically direct comedies, so it would be kind of viewed from a comedic lens, but yeah, please.
I would say also we made 3 short films together, and they all kind of focused around women and their relationships with one another. And so this one was kind of about women wanting something but ultimately not having it, and oftentimes that's because of a man. And so that's sort of, in this story, what happens is like a woman gets close to what it is, living the life that she truly wants, but ultimately lets that go for another reason, and that reason being something that society often pushes us towards. But so, yeah, we kind of just love exploring female relationships, and that's how this one came about. Was Doron wanted to do one where a woman's husband had gone missing. Yeah.
So I've got to ask one of my favorite lines in the movie, and it helps kind of open up your character and the kindness of your character. She goes up to a car where a woman is sleeping, the other person, and says, that's kind of a taboo. Women who sleeping in cars is a little dangerous. Can you talk about the writing the type of humor that you guys are trying to touch upon? And I think that kind of touches upon it, because her reaction is like, no, it's my car, it's cool, don't worry about it.
Yeah. Well, I think there's something so funny about people that read a lot of articles on Facebook and think they're real. So that kind of sparked that, being like, no, I read this thing on Facebook, and that's not safe, where it's like we pretend like Facebook articles are all true. And that's especially like a certain like demographic of people, like that's something that my mom would do, or people that are just like kind of sheltered. So yeah, I think that for me, that's where that came from for me, was just thinking of that, like people who read stuff on Facebook and think it's real.
As far as getting the dynamic of the two of y'all together, how much have y'all grown in filming a couple of shorts together? I feel like y'all had such great chemistry, especially the sequence right after she gets her call from her mom, and y'all kind of have this little moment.
Yeah.
How much have y'all grown by working together so well?
So the background is Katie and I knew each other years ago in Chicago, and we like wrote a play together, and we used to do stuff like that. Then we moved to Chicago, and we used to do like a weekly variety show where we would write different scenes every week and perform those live. And we started doing some videos together, and then Doron and I met, and we worked together, and I was obsessed with the way that he wrote. I felt like the way he wrote was so similar to the way that we wrote, like dialogue-wise. The stuff that he finds funny is stuff that we found funny. So after we worked together once, we were like, we have to make something, and I was like, you have to meet Katie. And so then we all worked together. But everything we've done has been so organic, and that's been really cool.
And we write together. So Katie and Blair and I will, these scenes will be written ahead of time, and we know each other's strengths, and Blair, can write for herself and for Katie, and Katie can write for Blair and for herself. And I kind of get the privilege of being some sort of like, you know, I get to be this person who can say, you know, I don't think that that's maybe the best move for us in this moment, or, you know, and we can just kind of, I think, share in this sort of, in this kind of like the development of scenes in that way. And I think it's very organic is a word that I would use for sure. Yeah.
How much in the final product was scripted, and how much was there any improv? I mean, how did that happen?
The scene that you're talking about, I mean, the script is, we spend a lot of time writing. That's a really important part of the process. And that's because I think I've seen improvisation can be brilliant, but a lot of the times it can be really like loose and baggy, and it can weigh things down. And I think our interest in this particular project was this story and finding where these characters lived in the story. And in the projects that we've done, we've tried to avoid kind of like loose and baggy and over heavy improv, like weighing things down. And so it's just very important to have the kind of real sense of what the shape of this thing is. So writing is a big part of it. And occasionally the civic line, actually, that was found in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, where she tells Katie to say that she loves...
That she takes good care of
She takes good care of her civic, yeah, to say that out loud to herself. And then they just riffed on that, yeah.
And I would say we both have improv backgrounds. Katie and I, we're from Second City in Chicago. And so that's kind of how we were taught to write anyway, to improvise something and then script it from there. So I would say a lot of what we do, like script-wise, we're coming at it from an improvisational standpoint. So we'll like all go online at the same time and kind of like almost like improvise a scene, but through typing it.
Well, it works because I think your beats throughout hit perfectly. I know I was laughing at so many specific points. It's like, oh, genius. I love how that got there.
Cool.
Thank you.
As far as audience reactions, with that in mind, how have y'all felt about the timing of the laughter with what y'all are seeing? It must be gratifying when it hits those points, like the civic line and the parts.
You've been to more lives.
Unfortunately, Blair hasn't been at a lot of the live screenings for this film. But I've had the joy of being present for audience reaction, and it's great. I mean, it's really, I think something like with a movie like this, I think we often ask ourselves like, I think anybody who writes anything that they want people to laugh at, it's like, will this do that? And are we completely on a separate planet? You know, is this funny? And so being in a space with people laughing and responding is incredibly satisfying. But I think for us, it's like at least for me, there's cues. Like at that first shot of Blair writing onto her iPad Pepsi, where you see her list and it's potatoes, cheddar, Pepsi. And it's like if people in the theater laugh at that joke, I'm like, okay, they're gonna laugh at this movie. They're gonna get it. And then if they don't laugh at that joke, I'm like I'm waiting for them to laugh at the Facebook line. And if they don't laugh at that, then I'm worried. Then I'm worried. But usually at every screening I've had, people laugh at Pepsi and then they laugh at that and then they're on.
Are you guys sponsored by Pepsi, by the way? Because you even have a great shot of just the Pepsi bottle.
No, that was also
need to be.
We wanted the movie to appear as though it were sponsored by a big corporation, but it isn't. And that's just because we imagine that, or it's kind of a nihilistic thing, but it's like the future of everything is so commodified and so like heavily like branded and stamped. And so we were kind of poking fun at a future where like something as pure as like an indie short film, the least commercial form of something ever, even that has this kind of Pepsi brand on it. And yeah.
It's brought to you by Civic and Pepsi.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, yeah.
And there's lots
Makes
of
sense,
that.
yeah.
There's lots of this kind of like aggressive branding.
So I've got to ask, is the next step a feature for you guys as far as, not necessarily this story, though I could definitely see where y'all could go with this, but are y'all looking to write a feature? Or are you enjoying making shorts?
We are working on a feature, and we made a short film called She Keeps Me Young, which is a short film that we worked on before Company. And this one's online, and you can watch it online on Vimeo. It's called She Keeps Me Young, and yeah, that's what we're looking into developing as a feature. And we have a script, and we're trying to find money, and we're trying to basically take what we've learned from the 3 shorts that we've now done together and kind of make, something just a little bit bigger. Yeah.
A woman buddy comedy, hopefully.
Yeah.
Speak to it.
And you said it all.
Okay.
Actually, yeah.
Well, guys, I really enjoyed I Laughed throughout, so I
Thank you
love
so
the
much.
Pepsi line.
Thank you.
So thank you guys for bringing it here to Dallas, and I can't wait to see what you guys have coming out. I can't wait to check out the feature eventually.
Thank you so much.